It was one of those slightly incredible little country railway stations. Silent, empty, and isolated. A station with a name, but no real place to go with it. The waiting room was locked, dusty and disused. Inside there was an office where tickets might have been sold once, but not today, nor for very many days. No porters, no passengers, no parcels, no activity, and no trains by the look of it. It was almost as though the place had been abandoned in the face of some disaster. And yet there was a lamp burning, an oil lamp that flickered thinly in the daylight. Surely the lamp must have been lit by somebody. Or was this a kind of ghost station? Of course, nobody believes in ghost stations. Not even British Railways in all their wildest dreams of economy. But this station isn't far short of it. It's become what's known as an unmanned station, which means that although trains do still stop here, there's no need for station staff because the passengers can buy their tickets on the trains. And soon, even this nominal service will end. The station is about to be completely closed, and so is the line. It's one of the very many rural branch lines that have been chopped as unprofitable. Now, whatever the arguments for and against such closures, it's not difficult to understand why local people get so upset by them. Because apart from losing a service, they're also losing a part of local life. This line, for example, is about to enter its last 2 days of existence, and after 120 years, which must be a little sad. It's in Norfolk. The sky seemed to be the limit when £270,000 was raised to start the line at King's Lynn in 1845, when optimism was a refreshingly common quality, much more often found at railway stations than it is today. Tea will still be served in the King's Lynn buffet even when the branch line closes. A busy port and market town, Lynn still needs its station for London trains. But on the branch, this is one of the very last journeys. The other end of the line is at East Dereham, 24 miles east of Lynn, on the way to Norwich. East Dereham is a growing little market town with a population of just over 7,000. At one time, railway lines left it in 3 directions, but the one north to the coast at Wells next the sea was closed in 1964. This one is about to close, and the future of the third, to Norwich, is a bit obscure. What is clear is that Dereham will never now become the Clapham junction of Norfolk, although originally such a development was not improbable. There was a scheme to make the line part of a major route between Yarmouth, Norwich and the Midlands. But in the 1840s, there were schemes for building lines from everywhere to anywhere. The reality here is 26.5 miles of single track that travellers find soothing and drivers unexacting. 26.5 miles of quaint and quiet clickety-clunk through tranquil flat countryside and villages with gentle names. Wendling, Fransham, Dunham, Swaffham, Narborough, Pentney, East Winch and Middleton Towers. To the passengers, the death of the line brings mixed grief.
Well, very sad about it. We were only saying this morning, my sister and I, as we came along, how much it's altered. You know, that you come out the station, it's dead, there's no machines for cigarettes, chocolates or anything. The bookstall is gone, the waiting rooms are closed, the booking office is closed, and we do really, I think most Swaffham people feel very sad about it. I know I do. Anyway, we shan't hear the trains, we shan't hear the diesels.
I shall travel on the bus, that's all.
Not shed a single tear?
No.
I'm very sorry it's going to be closed because, I mean, you see, there's the buses we know we've got, but there's no bus shelter at Lynn, not for us from this part to shelter for the buses. No waiting. There's only, you see, the outside waiting. And, I mean, it's not very convenient at all. So I'm really disgusted with it. They're closing the line.
Wendling is the first of the 7 stations between Dereham and Lynn. Since pay trains came in, it's been reduced, like the others, to the deserted status of an unmanned halt. With no staff to shout out where you've arrived or where you're going, using the trains has become a somewhat esoteric transaction to be engaged in only by the informed, the locals who understand the conductor's buzzer and know the timetable. There are 9 trains a day in each direction, but nothing moves on Sundays. As the pay train slides out almost furtively, it's difficult to believe that this was once a busy little station, with 2 signalmen, 2 porters, a clerk and a station master to marshal the passengers and keep the trains moving. Some of the trains at Wendling are kept moving in the garden of the station, supervised by the young son of the former station master. Nowadays, his father has to work elsewhere as a relief man, but the family still live at the station and hope to be able to stop there.
Mrs. Tuck, you have been here 20 years, you're married to a railwayman, you live in a railway station, your boy's got the garden cluttered up with toy trains. Do you ever get fed up with railways?
Well, no, not really. I'm just sorry to see the line closed. I'm going to miss it all. That's the worst part about
What, the
it.
busyness of it, do you mean?
Well, it isn't so busy now, but it's the train shooting by and the train shooting back. It's, I think I tell the time and do everything by the time of the trains now.
You don't get your ornaments shaken off the mantelpiece.
Used to when the steam trains come through, but not so much now with the diesels. They're not quite so noisy and terrific as the steam engines was.
What was it like here, 20 years ago?
Oh, much prettier. You had the pot plants all in the waiting rooms, the signal box built up high and the hanging baskets. There was a bench there with roses at the back where people used to sit in the sunlight.
Make it sound like the Riviera.
Oh, the side of the platforms here was all whitened every week. I had a job to keep up with the railwaymen were all there cleaning and polishing. I didn't keep up with the Joneses, I kept up with the railwaymen.
Here's a good question to ask you. You've got, 2 boys. Do they, either of them, want to be engine drivers?
Well, not now. When they was little, they used to talk about it. When they used to get the steam engines through here, the little boy used to get up on the steam engines. When they were blowing off steam, the driver used to say, oh, let him have a ride or blow the whistle. And that was all right. But since they've got older and see that the railways sort of gone downhill, they're not interested.
There doesn't really seem to be much difference between a boy's toy train and a man's real one in the last few hours of the life of a line. The toy will be put away at the end of the day, and so will the diesel, to be equally unimportant until it's brought out again and put to work on another line with some assurance of a future. Perhaps the saddest aspect of the closure is that the railwaymen feel that they've lost their grip. They become as bewildered as the passengers.
Years ago, this train was the only transport, apart from just, a horse and cart or something like that. So, I mean, I can't remember anything else but the railway.
I get on wonderfully well with my passengers. I know majority of them and can roll them out a ticket as soon as I see their faces. I have a lot of jokes with them. I'm very, very sorry to see them go. In fact, I said goodbye to 2 of them today, who I shan't see again. I've seen the children grow up and have children of their own on here. I know one mother with 2 children who I knew laying just in the pram herself.
What do you have to do now when you...
I have to watch out to see that the passengers get out and on safely, the doors are shut, and then give 2 buzzers on here, and the driver should repeat it. He does, and then we go. When he gets 2, he can go. But if I give him 1, that means stop immediately. But of course I can stop the train by pulling out an emergency handle. over the other side of the van.
I can't get any other work outside this job. So I'll have to go into bigger depots such as Stratford or King's Cross, somewhere like that, where there's plenty of work.
Could you describe what it was like on this line in the days of steam?
There's no comparison at all, really. At one time they were all mates, jolly good company, you know. As you came along you knew everybody, but now they're disappearing. You go miles and miles and don't see anybody. Nobody at the stations. A lot more like ghost trains.
If this is a ghost train, it's entering what will very soon be a phantom station on a spectral line that began dissolving inevitably towards the spirit world in 1963, when Dr. Beeching's ample shadow fell across so many platforms. It was at the beginning of 1965 that British Railways officially proposed closing the line, and there then followed a long ritual of objections, protests, appeals, and meetings of a body called a Transport Users Consultative Committee. But everybody could have saved their breath and torn up their letters to the editor, because 2.5 years after the first public inquiry, amid angry allegations that the whole inquiry procedure had been no more than a charade, the writing was, quite literally, on the wall. The final notice gave the line 4 more summer months of existence, and while passengers hoped that the amplified bus services would be sufficient, farmers burnt stubble in their harvest fields, as they often do today. Ironically, in 1844, farmers opposed the railway line for fear that sparks from steam engines would set their crops alight. Ah well, roll on my redundancy pay.
Swaffham, 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 change it, Tipton, Cambridge. Train for Dunham, Vanishing, Welland and Dereham. Narborough, Pitney, East Spence, Middleton, Towns, Kings Lynn. Swaffham, 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 change it, line the doors. The old-time porters had a traditional reputation for shouting train announcements that were superbly incomprehensible. Mind you, that's one of the railway traditions that hasn't been allowed to die out. It's simply that today they use microphones and loudspeakers to smother the announcements. Anyway, there were plenty of announcements to make here when the line was in its prime. This is Swaffham Junction, the middle of the 7 doomed stations, and quite the busiest, biggest, and most important of them all. You could get on local trains here that would take you in 3 directions of the compass, and with a change here and there, you could go almost anywhere for any kind of adventure. To Yarmouth for a day at the seaside, to Cambridge for a bit of education, or even to London if you fancied it. Today, you can't get so much as a platform ticket.
When this station was built in 1847, it must have been the most exciting development the little town had ever seen. So progressive and modern. Even the very latest kind of gas mantle to light up the name on the sign. No, not just light it up, illuminate it. The station was a triumph, a proud, confident, optimistic, bricks and mortar statement that Swaffham was on the map, the railway map that was spreading all over Britain. How satisfied the citizens must have been to pace the well-swept platforms while waiting for trains that were magnificently noisy and formidably punctual. And the station staff, what a credit they were.
Ganger, station master, signalman, station foreman, signalman, porter. The station master here, he had control of the staff and they were never there for a job. And at that time of day, if they couldn't find anything to do, he'd have them on the garden for half an hour, keep them occupied. He would allow no smoking, not on the station. Every day he'd make his round up the town, the bank, and then call on business people in the town, and visit the brewery at the far end of the town, have his drop before he come back.
Quite a trip doing this, isn't it?
It is, yes.
What do you have to do as you walk along the line like this?
Well, our job is to patrol through, look for these keys that are out, any broken chairs, broken plate on the joints, loose bolts.
How many miles might you walk in a day like this?
Well, our journey is, well, we start from actually patrolling the road, roughly about just over 8 miles each.
You don't feel in any danger with trains passing?
Well, we have to know what time they're coming, that's right. Whether they're coming behind us or in front of us. So that's the purpose of our yellow waistcoats, for the driver visibility.
As this is the, last 2 days of the line, is there any real reason for doing the job still?
Well, I think there really is. What with vandalism and things like that, I think even the last train is in already been wrecked, isn't it?
The first diesel trains slid quietly into service on the line 13 years ago, and although they robbed the railway of the romance of steam, they also put some steam into the timetables. The number of journeys each way was doubled, and passenger receipts suddenly shot up by 25%. It really looked for a time as though the line might have a kind of future. But there were never enough passengers, the goods traffic fell away, and gradually there was less and less work for the signalmen. Swaffham remains the busiest station on the line, and it's the only place on a single track system where 2 trains can be seen at once. But this gives only an appearance of bustle, and in the last few hours of the line, it's appropriate perhaps to consider what was said about it in 1844, when 100 landowners formed a committee to oppose it. They declared that traffic on the line would be too minute and the advantages too trifling to justify disrupting local rural life. Reactionary load of old Whigs, but they must be chuckling today in their family vaults. On single track lines, there's always the danger of collision, so the line is divided into sections which a train can only enter after the driver has collected a metal token. The tokens are handed over in leather pouches with loop handles. An electric interlocking device between signal boxes makes it impossible for more than one token to be issued in a section at a time. If there's one woman who really knows the timetable of the line, it's Mrs. Dorothy Calaby. And when the line closes, perhaps nobody's life is going to be quite so profoundly affected. Mrs. Calaby is the official crossing keeper at Narborough, and the whole rhythm of her existence is geared to the swing of the gates. She swings them first thing in the morning for the 6:53 from Lynn, and last thing in the evening for the 8:36 to Dereham. She usually manages the children's breakfast between the 7:14 up and the 8:10 down, and lunch between the 11:52 and the 3 minutes past 1, which leaves in nice time to do the washing up after the 1:57. Her husband is a signalman at Lynn and can phone through if he's going to be back for tea on the 4:39. Otherwise, it's supper on the 7:28. Mrs. Calaby is about to lose £8 a week in wages and quite a lot of exercise. Crossing gates were first put up mainly to keep horse traffic off the line, and it may be true to say that when horses gave way to horsepower in motor cars, trains were already beginning their last journeys. Motor cars gave door-to-door mobility, freedom from timetables, and outdated a lot of jokes about old ladies locked in the lavatory at Crewe. Main lines lost trade and rural railways became an oil lamp-lit anachronism. Today, it's almost comically incredible to find a man making a living by endlessly pouring paraffin into lamps and carting them round the countryside in a series of slow train journeys broken by occasional excursions up ladders. But in the old-fashioned nature of this job, there may be an old-fashioned clue to the execution of the line. In 1845, even the most optimistic advocates of the line realised that it might be a bit short of passengers in thinly populated Norfolk. But they saw success and profit in goods, particularly coal. In those days, coal arrived at Lynn by ship and was then moved on to Dereham by barge and horse and cart at a cost of 20 shillings a ton. The railway would do it for 1 3d. Now there was potential for you. But very old-fashioned seeming now. Coal carrying and oil lamps. Old-fashioned. In the junction box at Lynn, there's a pessimistic air. Mr. Calaby isn't so concerned about his wife losing her crossing keeper's job, but as an NUR official, he's worried over redundant men and doubts the future of Lynn itself. A crowded platform is a rare sight at Lynn today, and excursions like this one to Hunstanton aren't likely to last. Lynn hopes to survive as one of the 2 railheads in Norfolk, the other being Norwich, but nobody's putting money on it. The Hunstanton line is threatened with closure, the Dereham line is going, and these are blows to a proud station that's still used by Royal trains for Sandringham. You encounter pride, too, in a retired steam engine driver who draws a pension of 19 and twopence a week after nearly 50 years' service. He understands what hit the railways.
There's everyone today wants a car, and the majority of them have got cars, and it is the thing what's putting the railways out. But the branch lines, I mean, but because I think that the mainline trains will always carry the people, the long distance ones, because I think the public prefer it.
And how, as a last thing, could you say, do you feel on this, the last day?
Well, it's a pity to see it closed, but I think it had to come. I think it had to come.
Well, when the line closed, from my point of view, it's a terrible shame, without a doubt. Not only the people who are going to lose the train, but the men I got placed in a job. I mean, out of this line closure, there's 21 jobs anyhow, with counting Lynn and the branch line. But there's no work for them here. You take a man of 60, there's just no work for him, even with the redundancy payments. It's terrible to go and tell a man, well, you're out of a job and we just ain't got a job for you. But this is a dying industry, and in my opinion, we'll finish up with Lynn within 3 years as an unstaffed halt. We've got no future for the railways in this area at all. That might sound pessimistic, I know, but that's right.
When I started, you was really glad to be in a good job, a regular job, you see. But today that's much different. We worked harder than the railmen do today. It was all hand firing, shoveling into the coal into the firebox, you see, to get the steam. But today they sit in the diesels and it's much easier.
The train now standing at platform 7 is the 9:33 to oblivion. No coal, no fire, no steam, no speed. No firemen, no drivers, no sweat, no signals, no trains, no engines. No frighteningly fast, proudly polished, big and beautiful, great and gleaming, swanky, splendid, sleek, supreme, superb, superlative engines. Just rusty old lumps of iron. As the wreckers and junk men tear and bang and burn at the old locomotives in a destruction depot, it's understandable that there are men who feel sorrow at the death of steam and preservationists who like to put all the old engines in glass cases. After all, this really is the end. There's not enough left now to squeeze into a train spotter's notebook. It's well established now that an Englishman's council house is his castle, and if he should choose instead to make it his railway station, then perhaps we're richer for the mild anomaly. In the garden of his home at Dereham, Mr. Davy Grant has what some people would describe as a pile of junk, and others an enviable collection of railway relics. To be invited inside to fondle these objets is an uneasy privilege. It's one thing, as any connoisseur would agree, to murmur appreciatively over a Dresden figurine, and quite another to say anything helpful about a ticket machine. But now that even Sotheby's hold sales of railway relics, one must accept that Mr. Grant's collection is interesting, and as an engine driver, he must be an expert. Mr. Tallant, as you've spent a lifetime as an engine driver, it seems a little surprising to me that you should take pleasure in listening to a gramophone record of engine noises. Was your job on steam so important to you?
Well, it was our life. It was also our hobby. And I think anybody who pursues a hobby, well, he just does the best in that particular way.
Mrs. Tallant, do you share your husband's enthusiasm for steam?
Yes, I do. I love the old engines very much. I know I was glad in a way, as I say, I didn't have the dirty old dungarees to wash when Bob went on diesels. But apart from that, I know very well that his heart was with steam.
Some engines were good steamers, and they would steam almost anyhow. Others had to be nursed in the sense that you'd have to watch your opportunities, to put the cool on absolutely correctly.
The last gallant run of the Flying Scotsman was well publicised and publicly acclaimed, while the last train on the Lynn to Dereham line just travelled from one end of the track to the other, and that was that. But on the last day of the line, one special train rumbled along it. A special train chartered by railway enthusiasts with cameras, maps, enthusiasm, and one slightly puzzled guest. The excursion was called a farewell rail tour, and the seemingly morbid purpose was to look at something in its last few hours of existence. On the front of the train were the initials of the Midland and Great Northern Joint Railway Society, and the M&GN JRS made the most of their sad summer afternoon. They recorded everything with a kind of glum glee. Back in the 1840s, when eager money was being poured optimistically into this railway and hundreds of others, Britain was said to be afflicted by railway mania. And in a different sense, perhaps railway mania is still with us, even at the end. How, one wonders, do the enthusiasts feel today?
One have said the passing of something that was very good in its time. Whether it's as good as what we've got today is as good as what we had is a little bit to be sometimes to consider. Particularly with regard to punctuality that we used to have on the railways and we don't have with anything today.
I hear that in East Anglia especially, the branch lines are being eroded at far too great a rate. I think already too many have already been closed, and in fact I'd like to see some reopen.
It seems like a right of way that's been stopped. It's something that's lasted quite a long time that we can't get back. But I don't know whether we should feel sad about it. I don't know why I do. There's probably some deep reason. I'm not distraught.
Nostalgic, really. It's a pity they're going. I think they're going for the wrong reasons, wrong policies and everything. It's a shame. I think they could have been saved if they'd tried harder.
As a railway enthusiast, it disappoints me greatly to see railway lines closing, but one's got to face realities that people just don't use the railways. And unfortunately, the railways were built in a time when the horse and cart was the next best thing. And at the moment, people can just go door to door by car, and they're leaving the railways behind.
And that's the end of the line. The end of 120 years that opened in optimism, splendour and pride and closed in bewilderment, regret and decay. This is what a station can look like after it's been out of use for some time. This one's not far from Dereham, and it was shut down about 6 shabby years ago. It's too late now to weep over the pruning of so many rural branch lines, but it might just be worth mentioning the men who operated them. The men who swept platforms like this, the men who polished and scrubbed and whitewashed, who planted flowers, carried luggage, waved flags, blew whistles, said good morning, sir, when they punched your ticket, and really served. Served for incredible lengths of time, like 45 years and more, to collect big gold watches and pitifully small pensions. Those men seem to have faded away with their stations. Perhaps they too were the last of a line.